Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today we will be going over the new credit card accounts feature. With this feature, you will be able to track your credit card activity and liabilities to each hotel. Before we get started, here's a look at today's agenda. We'll be covering how to create your credit card account, enter in your different transactions, make a payment with your credit card, how to use the reconciliation tool, using the enterprise level credit cards, and finally opening up for any questions that you may have. So to start, let's take a look at how to create a credit card account. From your administration dropdown, if you select Accounts Management, and then choose the hotel or enterprise account that you wish to assign your credit card to. In this case, we're going to go with a credit card account for a hotel only. Now, once you've selected the property that you wish to add the credit card, scroll down to the bottom of the accounts page itself, and you will now see the credit card accounts section. In the bottom right corner, you can select the Plus credit card option, and this will allow us to begin the process. When you select to add a credit card, you'll be required to fill out 5 different fields, the first being your credit card number. Next, you'll need to enter in a credit card vendor. Now, this vendor needs to be created in accounts payable before you can actually add the credit card as an account. So you may need to close out and create that vendor before proceeding. You'll also be assigning your contract number that's been set up for the account through that vendor. Next, you'll need to add in the chart of account number for this actual account, and this should fall in line with your bank account chart of accounts. For example, if your last bank account code was 01050, you would want your credit card account to start at 01060. Inflow will automatically create this as a liability chart of account as well. Lastly, you'll need to provide a nickname. As you can see, I've labeled this card as the manager's credit card, stating who at the property has access. Now that we've reviewed how you can create that credit card account, let's take a look at the different ways you can enter the transactions. Now, for the credit card accounts, you can follow your standard invoice entry process, import the credit card statement, or use a withdrawal or deposit feature. Now, the current AP workflows is a 4-step process from the invoice entry to the invoice approval, where you'll cut the checks, and then that will fall into your operating account. For the credit card accounts, these utilize your existing accounts payable process for the invoice entry, but you are also able to import your statement directly into that credit card account. In addition to the import and invoice entry, you can also create withdrawals and deposits into the account. These 3 processes allow you flexibility when entering in your transactions into that credit card account. You are also able to apply payments through the credit card account. When the payment is created, Inflow will take from the credit card account and automatically set that up under the invoice approval to have a check written and be able to have it show up into your operating account. This will offset the liability from the credit card account into your operating statement. Now let's take a look at how each of the different processes work. When entering an invoice that is to be paid by a card, select the payment method dropdown, and you'll now have the option to add in the credit card. When you select credit card as a payment method, the page will adjust to show you an account selection. Select the card account that you wish to apply this invoice to. In this case, the transaction is from the manager's trip to Staples, so this will be applied to that manager's credit card. Now that we've selected the proper account, let's go ahead and save and close, and you'll get a standard message that appears letting you know that you are changing the default pay method to credit card. You can avoid this pop-up by setting up the selected vendor with the primary payment method of credit card under accounts payable. Now on the approval page, you will see that the payment method has changed to credit card, and we can now approve this transaction and move forward to the credit card accounts. Now the approved transactions will directly hit your credit card account, which can be accessed from Cash Management and selecting the Credit Card Accounts tab. The credit card account page has the same layout as your operating account, where you can select the different accounts set up. Now let's navigate real quick to the manager's credit card. So now we can see that the Staples transaction that we just approved is sitting under the manager's credit card account. And you'll also notice that the balance of the credit card reflects the Staples transaction. Now let's move on to the import tool. To import the credit card statement, the process is broken up into a 5-step program. The first, you'll be able to upload the document, set up the data mapping for the file, create the mapping rules for transactions, apply the vendor details, and finally upload any supporting documents. First up, let's go to the import page and select import, which is going to be a button in the upper right corner. We are now on to step 1. So from here, we need to select the mapping rule we wish to use. This can either be an existing mapping or one already created. You'll see a drop-down menu, and you can either create a new one and label it whatever credit card it is that you're creating, or you can choose one that already exists. In this case, we're going to select the Amex card, but you can always make a new rule based off of that credit card that you plan to use, such as a Manager's American Express or corporate credit card. Next, we need to upload the actual downloaded statement. Once this is complete, hit upload, and you'll be moved on to the second step, which is data mapping. The data mapping step is where we match your statement column headers to the inflow fields. So here's an example of a typical credit card statement. The titles at the top of the at the top here list your transaction, post date, description, category, and payments. In inflow, the system will pick these up and ask you to map these column headings to the inflow accounting fields. And let me show you. Back on the step 2 data mapping, when I choose the importing data, you'll see each of those headers listed from that drop-down menu. Depending on what your file shows, will also determine if these file changes. Once you've filled out all of the relevant fields for you, including the date, company, description, and category, and also to note with the description, you can combine multiple different fields from that importing data to create that description. So you can include the name of the company, the description, and the category all together as the description field. Once this has been filled out, we'll hit the next step, and this will take us on to the third step of the process, which is the rule mapping. From here, we can apply rules to both the company or to the category. These rules will be saved automatically and applied to all future statement uploads, making the process a lot quicker and easier for you. Each rule will require 4 fields to be filled out. The first being the contents of the rule. For example, let's use FedEx. Now, what Inflow will do looking at this rule is if the company column contains the word FedEx, then it's automatically going to apply a chart of account that you specify. In this case, we want to choose the postage chart of account. Now we also have the option to add in vendor details to be associated with each of these rules. So for any rows that contain the word FedEx, we can have it automatically apply the FedEx vendor and then the FedEx customer number that we have. Now please note that both the vendor and customer number fields are only optional and are not required to set up the rule. Now we have saved that FedEx rule and we've created a few more. Once your rules are created, Inflow will know to automatically fill in all of the red details with the information that we've specified. So with my next credit card statement upload, it'll automatically locate any Cisco, American Hotel, Ecolab, FedEx, or Microsoft transactions and automatically populate those columns in with the information that I've specified. Now, let's say you use your credit card for dining purposes. You may not necessarily want to create a vendor for every fast food restaurant or restaurant that you visit. For a situation like that, when you set up your category rules, you can assign the credit card vendor and chart of accounts that you need to be able to automatically code those transactions to a specified vendor. This will save you the time and effort of having to create a specific vendor for each of these restaurants. Now, once your rules have been applied, you'll see that the data is going to be filled in automatically. Now, we do still have some fields with red in it, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. The first thing to take a look at is on the right, I've marked out 2 columns for Amazon. These transactions are both personal and not being paid through the hotel or related to the hotel's transactions. So if your card that you use is used for multiple different purposes, multiple different properties, you can specify which transactions you want to upload at this property. And if there are any that don't involve, you can go ahead and check the box, choose delete, and Inflow will ask you to confirm that the data is to be deleted as a final precaution. And you'll see that those rows that you've selected will be removed from the import statement. Now, we still have those fields in red, and as I said, those will be handled in the next step, which is the vendor details. We'll use this page to fill in any missing chart of accounts, adjust any of the accounting periods if necessary, and add any associated vendors as well to each of these transactions. So first, to start up, we'll see that we have some vendors that need to be filled in. You can apply changes to the vendors either by using the Replace option or clicking on each individual vendor field. You can also adjust each individual row's chart of accounts. You also have the ability to update the accounting period or replace all in one stroke using the Replace All button for accounting periods. Now, looking back at that vendor section, we can either apply again the individual changes to each row or selecting the Replace option above, change all in bulk. When you select the Replace All, it'll bring up a new window and specify again that all vendors or all rows with unmapped vendor names will be mapped to the following information, which I have currently set up to the American Express vendor. You also have the ability where just choosing the specific row, you can apply your own vendor and customer number. So if you have an Office Depot or a Staples, you can apply those individually. Now that we've applied vendors to the remaining fields, we just need to set up the chart of accounts. So clicking on the red box for a chart of account will allow us to apply a code to each row. Now each row is going to have to be manually added for any rows that do not have a rule already set up from the third step in this process. Once all red fields have been removed, we are able to move on to the final step. By selecting Save and Close, we can move forward to where we can attach any of the supporting documents for any of the fields that we have uploaded. So if you have any of your FedEx statements, Cisco, American Hotel, or you just want to upload a copy of the American Express statement, you can do so with the attached files. This step is optional, so if you do not want to upload any files to associate with this, you can go ahead and simply hit close, and all of your transactions will now be created under the credit card accounts. Now, to reiterate, all of those rules that we created during the steps 2 and 3 will be saved in the system. So the next time you go and upload the credit card statement for your manager's account or for any of the credit cards that you set up rules for, the data mapping will be automatic and save you a lot of time for the future imports. Now that we've entered in all of our transactions, we need to make a payment on the card. This process follows 3 steps of creating the payment, approving, and then cutting the check. To make a payment, select the payment option in the upper right corner of the credit card account. From the payment screen, we'll need to enter in the invoice details. So we'll start with the invoice number, any notes associated with this credit card statement, the payment method, as well as the statement date, and then the total amount that we're willing to pay right now. Now, you're not required to pay these in full, so if you are only wanting to make a 50% payment, this is where you would specify that amount. Next, we'll go ahead and save and close this information. And from here, the transaction is going to fall directly under invoice approval. Since we've created the transaction, we'll follow the same AP workflow process from here, where once approved, depending on your payment method, we'll hit your check writer and then operating account. which will offset again the liability created from that credit card. Now, we also have the ability to reconcile your credit card accounts. The transactions will be reconciled against your credit card statement, and the reconciliation option will be selected from the credit card accounts and shares the exact same setup as the reconciliation process for any of your other accounts that you have in Inflow. Now that we've covered the process of using a credit card account at the hotel level, the other option is setting up your credit card at the enterprise level. An enterprise credit card will allow the ownership to pay for multiple hotel expenses on a single card, while maintaining any liabilities from the properties due back to the enterprise itself. Now, at this point, I'd like to open up for any questions that you may have. And it looks like I do have one question that just came in first. This question is asking, what if I selected the wrong payment type and it's sitting on the check writer? So if you have a check or a transaction that was meant to be paid on credit card and the payment method was not changed, we can adjust this from any step after the invoice has been entered. So saying that we have an invoice sitting on the check writer page, we can go ahead and select that hotel. We'll be able to select the transaction. And in here, we can go ahead and change the payment method from check to credit card. Doing so and selecting the account that we want this to pay from, we can simply hit save and close. This will be removed from the check writer page and sent directly to the credit card account. Another question that came through here is, what happens if somebody submitted this to the wrong hotel? Can I change it? And the answer is yes. So before I move forward from this page, there's also another option that's been created, which is this Move EHID option. So at any time, if you have a question, or if you have an invoice that was either entered to the wrong property, or you want to pay it through a different property, you can use this Move EHID option. And depending on your role permissions, you can select another available property. So if this transaction was to be paid from a different hotel or from the enterprise, we'll select that account and choose Move. Now, if you're paying this from the enterprise account, you'll notice that the invoice split here still remains as BWCA, even though we are now under the enterprise account. If we change this to a hotel, the split would also list the new hotel that's been changed to. This feature can be used not only for the credit cards, but for any transactions that you enter. Also, I just want to make a note here real quick. If you happen to have had your hand raised during this presentation, you'll need to use the chat feature to ask your question. Another question that just came through here is if this will be available after the training, the recording. And if you'd like a copy of this recording, please submit a support ticket titled Credit Card Accounts, and we will be able to send you a copy of that recorded version. And a question that just came through as well, this feature is indeed live for all clients. You do not need to create a ticket to activate this. You simply need to go into your administration, accounts management, and select the property that you wish to add that credit card for. The field will automatically be available for you at the bottom of that accounts details page. So when you scroll down, you'll now see the credit card accounts field. This is open and available to anybody who needs access. Now I'm going to hold out here for just a moment for any other questions that may come up. One question that just came through here, will this feature allow me to reimburse anybody that uses their credit card for a lot of property purchases? And as long as you have this set up as an account in Inflow, you can track all of the transactions in here. Now, as far as reimbursement, I'll have to get back to you on the best way to handle reimbursing the individual, as this tool is mainly used to be able to track the credit card funds itself and make payments to the actual credit card itself, the credit card company. And to answer the second part of that question, yes, you can use this feature to write a check directly to the credit card company. Now, it does not look like I have any other questions at this time. So thank you very much for joining us today. If you do happen to have any questions that you can think of after this meeting has ended, please submit a support ticket. At that point in time, we can go ahead and answer anything that you have. Now, the other question that just came through here is if you need to create a credit card account for all employees. And the answer to that is no. The credit card accounts are going to be set up for the property itself. So if that specific employee has access to the accounts payable tools, they'll be able to use that credit card itself. Now, if you happen to pay with an ACH or wire, you'll still use the ACH payment method. Now, again, if you have any other questions moving forward, please feel free to go ahead and submit a support ticket again. Please just label it with credit card accounts. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and a great weekend.